How's it going, everyone? This is Adam from Slurve, Ship My Money on DraftKings, and I'll be breaking down today's pitching slate for you for Tuesday, May 17th. Today's a pretty fun slate. We have a lot of aces going, so there's a lot of decisions you can make, and it should be a pretty fun day. This video will probably be a little bit shorter than usual, just because I got a late start on my research because I had a little bit of a sweat in the DraftKings qualifier last night. So I got a little bit of a late jump on that. I'll have more information later on in the Slurve chat for you guys. But so far what I'm looking at is in cash, I really, on both sites, obviously like Clayton Kershaw at 13,700 on DraftKings, 13,000 on FanDuel. He's just an amazing pitcher. He's just been pitching lights out this year. 77 strikeouts and 4 walks, I think it is this year. Going up against an Angels team that, doesn't hit well, not like he needs a good matchup anyway, but this just helps. Going back to last year, they strike out about 17% of the time against lefties, but he strikes out about 34% of the batters he faces this year with a 15% swinging strike rate. And you have the Angels who swing the bat, early and often. They don't miss a lot of pitches, but he's just in a category of his own as far as stuff, and I think they will miss plenty of his pitches today, and he'll just have a great outing. I like Madison Bumgarner in his matchup against the Padres, but I do prefer Kershaw. If you can get that extra $1,000 on, I think it's $1,200 on DraftKings, $900 on FanDuel, I definitely recommend doing that. The Padres against Bumgarner, they're still not a great hitting team against lefties, but they are on the better side of their split, and I think Kershaw just has a much higher floor and a higher ceiling than Bumgarner does, just based off of stuff. Like, Bumgarner's really good, but his strikeout and swinging strike numbers and everything are closer to, like a normal human being than Kershaw, who's just, like, out of this world. So, if you can get up to Kershaw, I definitely recommend that. There's no, like, really inexpensive pitchers I like. The cheapest I would want to go in cash would be down to either Jaime Garcia at 9,200 on DraftKings, or Kyle Hendricks at 8,500. I believe, 8,400, sorry. Jaime's matched up with the Rockies. It's a really good matchup for him. Going back to last year, they have a 73 WRC plus against left-handed pitching and a 306 WOBA with a 22% strikeout percentage. On top of that, Garcia's actually been striking out a lot of guys this year. His strikeout percentage so far this season is 26% with an 11% swinging strike rate, which is really good and makes it seem like, his increased strikeout numbers might be sustainable because it's not like he's striking out a lot of guys but doesn't have a high swinging strike rate. I'm going to dig more into his pitches later to try and see how sustainable I think that is. But right now I think that, at least my early thoughts are that, it looks pretty good, and I really like his matchup with the Rockies today. Hendricks is in a good spot also, going up against the Brewers. They're a pretty right-handed heavy lineup. Going back to last year, he strikes out about 23% of righties he faces. He's also a pretty extreme ground ball pitcher, and he's the kind of pitcher that I like targeting against the Brewers because they swing and miss a lot, but they don't chase a lot of pitches, and they just, in general, don't swing a lot. So I prefer to get guys who throw a lot of strikes, but can also get some swings and misses, and that's more of Kyle Hendricks' style. He throws a lot of strikes. He doesn't generally get a lot of swings and misses in the strike zone, but the Brewers, as a team, swing and miss in the strike zone a lot. So I think he'll get a boost there. And he's just the kind of guy that I think matches up really well with them. Similar to how Wei-Yin Chen dominated them a week or so ago, as someone who gets ahead in the count, throws a lot of strikes, and then is able to get them to chase because he's ahead in the count, as opposed to trying to get ahead in the count by them chasing, because they generally don't do that. So I think Hendricks has a really nice floor in this matchup. Moving into GPP plays, they're pretty much the same pitchers for me today. The exception would be, I have no problem, because you figure Kershaw and Bumgarner are going to be really highly owned. So I have no problem moving to Syndergaard or I guess Scherzer. I don't think I'm going to go after Scherzer today just because I don't trust that he's going to have a good outing. He, was obviously phenomenal in his last outing, and it was just a really, really emotional game for him, and he threw a ton of pitches. I kind of expect him to come out and not get lit up today, but maybe struggle a little bit. So I think I'll probably, if I decide to pivot off of Kershaw and Bumgarner, I'll probably go Syndergaard as my higher tier pitcher in tournaments, but I'm not sure if I'll even do that just because Kershaw and Bumgarner just, I think, especially Kershaw, just higher ceilings and are in great spots today. For tournaments, I do prefer Garcia over Hendricks. Like, I think Hendricks is in play, especially if you want to, save that money. But Hendricks, he threw over 100 pitches his last start, but other than that, he's been getting pulled really early from games this season, and one start isn't enough for me to think that, Joe Maddon's going to just stop doing that. And on a slate like today, where there's so many, elite pitchers, you really have to maximize your upside, and so that makes me nervous with Hendricks in tournaments, even though I do think he has a nice ceiling if he is allowed to stay in the game. He just consistently hasn't been allowed to stay in the game long enough that I don't know if I want to risk that upside or that lack of upside on this slate. But I do think Garcia's got good upside, in that matchup with the Rockies in St. Louis. So the Rockies have the, ballpark downgrade. Moving into teams that I like, it's another reason I think today's slate is so fun. We have all these top tier pitchers, but then we have a lot of pitchers we can pick on also. And, no particular order, just kind of going down the list of teams that I like today. I like the Tigers going against Phil Hughes. They're projected to score 4.9 runs. Hughes is a fly ball pitcher, struggles against right-handed power, and the Tigers have a ton of right-handed power. I think it's similar to the matchup Hughes had with the Orioles in his last start. They're a very similar team to the Tigers as far as just a lot of right-handed power hitters that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. And Hughes hasn't been good this year, and when he's off, he just gives up home run after home run to these right-handed power bats. So I really like the Tigers today. On the other side of that game, the Twins are projected for 4.6 runs. I also like them going up against Mike Pelfrey. When he's on, he gets a lot of ground balls like he did against the Orioles in his last start. But when he's off, he can get absolutely lit up. And this is just a game that I really, if you can find a way to afford it, just stack. I don't mind just stacking the game. Like, both these teams have bad bullpens. They both have bad starting pitchers going today. There could just be a ton of runs in this game, coming off of the 10-8 game yesterday. I also like the Diamondbacks going against the Yankees. They're only projected for 4.1 runs, so I'm assuming they'll probably go under the radar a little bit, but they're facing Michael Pineda, who has a 1.09 ground ball to fly ball ratio so far this season. Gives up a good amount of fly balls, a lot of line drives, and he's in Chase Field, which, is outside of Coors Field, I think, just the best place to hit. And so I definitely have interest in the Diamondbacks if I can afford some of them today. The Cubs are in a great spot against Chase Anderson. They get the ballpark boost. I believe it's in Milwaukee. Anderson is just a bad pitcher in general. Cubs are projected for 5.2 runs. They're also really expensive, at least on DraftKings. I haven't looked at hitter pricing on FanDuel yet. But if you can somehow fit Cubs, they're obviously in a great spot. The Orioles and Mariners both are in a good spot. Orioles, a lot of right-handed power bats going against Wade Miley. The Mariners get the ballpark shift going to Camden Yards. They're facing Ubaldo Jimenez, who generally pitches better at home, and he is a ground ball pitcher when he's on. But when he's off, he struggles with his control and his command, walks a lot of guys, and then, when your command's off, you just kind of end up missing within the strike zone too, which leads to Robinson Cano and Kyle Seager and those guys hitting the ball really, really far. So, I like the Mariners also. The thing is, though, that's a pretty risky stack because you're stacking against a ground ball pitcher combined with a team that has a great bullpen. So, unless they just blow him up early and are able to get into, the weaker part of the Orioles bullpen, it's kind of hard for a team to score, 8 to 10 runs on the Orioles. So those are the teams. Oh, the Astros are a team that they're not projected to score a lot of runs, only 3.9. But I like their matchup. They're a team that I just always like to target in GPPs because they have so much power and they have guys that steal bases. And today they're facing Carlos Rodon, who has really good stuff, and he generally doesn't get hit hard, but he struggles with his control a lot. And generally, I don't like stacking teams against guys who are just going to walk people. But with the Astros, a lot of them, if they get on base, they can steal. So, there's that upside. And then if he is struggling, the Astros just have guys that can absolutely destroy left-handed pitching. And, so if his command is off, that could really, be a rough spot for him where he puts, walks a couple guys, puts them on base, and then, 3-run home run. Just he's out of the game early, and then you have, the Astros going against, whoever the White Sox, Longman is. So that's a spot where I assume because of the low total and all the games, ownership's going to be really low, I would think. And you just have a team that has as much upside as any team in baseball. So I'm interested in that spot. I mentioned earlier that I kind of don't trust Scherzer today. I won't be stacking the Mets, I don't think, outside of maybe like that $4 qualifier on DraftKings where, you need to come in first out of 10,000 people. But I don't think I'll mind, having some of those Mets power bats as one-off plays because they're going to be really low owned today, obviously, against Scherzer. But he has had trouble giving up home runs this year. And, even in the start against the Tigers, he gave up home runs. He just struck out everyone else. So I definitely don't mind fitting, a Met or two into your lineup and trying to just grab, very low-owned home runs against Scherzer today. So that's what I'm thinking for right now. Definitely stop into the Slurve chat later, though. I'll have a lot more information once I have done some more research and looked more in depth at some of these guys. So I'll talk to you all later, and good luck today.